Hello, people of the internet. This is the Something Vloggy CADW challenge.
Today we are visiting Llawhaden Castle.
Now, you might not think of the church as having much use for a castle, but this one was built by the bishops of the Diocese of St David.
It's thought to occupy the site of a former motte and bailey.
The first castle was built in 1115 by Bishop Bernard, of which the only remnants are the moat and earth bank.
The vast majority of the grand castle we see today was built by Bishop Llawhaden between 1362 and 1389.
It had 2 suites of residence on the ground floor. The gatehouse was probably added at a later date.
Additions to the castle continued into the early reign of Henry VIII.
In the first half of the 16th century, Bishop William Barlow sold the lead from the roof to pay for the dowry of one of his daughters, which let the rain in, damaging the interior of the building beyond repair.
The castle was abandoned in the 16th century after the dissolution of the monasteries.
And later it was quarried for stone. This is one heck of an entranceway. Look at that tower. You can see all the interior of those levels, but you can't get up to them. Even though the floors are still there, they're just kind of hollowed out husks in the tower. I think that's rather nifty.
I don't know about you, but I do like a good dungeon or whatever, and this probably isn't a dungeon, it's probably just part of the gatehouse, because above me there are 2 vaulted ceilings. One of them is still intact and it's way up there, and the other one has collapsed. You can see a number of windows for firing arrows from that point outwards. The fact that it's got 2 curved towers that form the gatehouse means that you really can defend yourself against people that are coming to attack. It's got very thick walls, it's got fantastic positions that you can fire at your enemy from. All in all, it looks like at one point it was a rather impenetrable structure. Now, not so much.
The first castle on this site was built in 1115 by Bishop Bernard, good old Bernard, and unfortunately the only thing that really remains of that is a motte and a few earthworks. So what you can see here now was built in about the 14th century. Later, in the reign of King Henry VIII, Bishop William nicked the lead off the roof to pay the dowry for his daughter to get married, which is why it now looks a bit fallen down.
As we've been travelling through Pembrokeshire and looking at a variety of castles and abbeys and churches and all sorts of things, one of the things that we keep seeing again and again are these arch structures. They're actually supposed to be roofs, and in some instances we found them still intact. In fact, you can see several examples of them here, but it's something that seems to be peculiar to the area, which suggests that either what's been going on is that people have been stealing the idea from other places they've seen, or alternatively, it's the same people building lots and lots of castles and churches and abbeys, and I would imagine that it's one of those things that it's a technique that has been used locally, it's been proved to work, so other people are going to do the same thing. But they are fascinating. Not only because of the fact that it's quite a complex structure to build, but also because of the fact that, unlike this one, so many of them survive.
Although this is a castle, it's called a castle, it looks like a castle, it was really built as a luxury living space, but it was built on top of a castle, and it seems to have kept some of the castle-esque type features that were there before, so like the courtyard behind me and the moat. But this is more of a palace, I'd say, than a castle. It's a lovely space, but a castle it is not.
Now, what castle would be complete without a somewhat terrifying well to look down into? And standing on the edge and looking down into there, I'm very pleased that there's a good iron grille to stop anyone from falling in, because that's a long way down, and I wouldn't want to fall down it.
So I've come into this really peculiar room. I don't know what it would have been for. It looks kind of dungeony and it's got a pit in it that looks almost like a well, but they've got a well outside. So I'm wondering if it's an oubliette, but I didn't think this was the kind of castle that would have an oubliette. So outside and above there's a chapel and the chapel tower, but I don't think this has anything to do with that either. So I'm a bit of a loss as to know what it is, and I can't work it out. So yes, if you could let me know in the comments down below, I would be forever grateful. Thank you.
This is another fine example of one of these arched roofs, and you can see, because of the fact that some of it's collapsed while some of it survived, that this bit here is arched. The floor above is all flat. You would make a framework out of wood, and then you would lay in your arches from either side until it met in the middle, and once it meets in the middle it becomes incredibly strong, and then you're able to fill in the space above it so that you end up with a flat floor, and that would have gone the entire length of this room. It's a brilliant design because it's incredibly strong. I mean, it must have taken quite a lot of work to actually break the thing up, but when this place was put out of action, they obviously made sure that you wouldn't want to come and spend any time here by making sure that all of the buildings were in some way destroyed. At the time that it was livable, this would have been really quite comfortable in here. And the stonework on the doors is very lavish. This was a nice place to be, and upstairs would probably have been nicer still.
This room through here and all the rooms down there are all undercrofts, and undercrofts are medieval storage places where you store your food, your wine, whatever it happens to be. They often have vaulted ceilings, and this one does. And right there was once the bakehouse. The bakehouse is almost completely gone now, but it wouldn't have been too far from the bakehouse to the undercroft to store food. And above it was a hall, so I'm guessing the hall is where they would dine, so it's not very far at all with the whole food process from creation to storage to feeding people.
You get to the top of that spiral staircase and you find yourself here. Now this is the room at the top of the tower, and it's a wonderful room. I mean, I love this. It's got a fantastic ceiling. It's got windows that look out in all different directions. The reason this wall here behind me has no window is because there is a window, but it's on the other side of the wall in a little passageway that leads to a guardrobe. You could have everything you could possibly need up here. It's got a chimney for a fireplace that indicates that this at one point would have been a nice room to live in. And the views are stunning. We're here on a hazy day. I would love to see it when the sun is out and it's a clear blue sky, and you could probably see for miles. The windows at one point were nicely finished in sandstone, which says to me that this was really quite luxurious. But of course you come down from the very top room of the tower and you're in this room, which doesn't look quite as posh, but it has got a fireplace. Not quite as posh as the one above, but again, another nice sized room. What these were used for, your guess is as good as mine. But I would say these were pretty good for accommodation.
What did you think of this lovely, lovely castle?
Well, it is lovely, lovely, as you say. I mean, there's an awful lot of things to it that I like. I like the arches. There are arches everywhere, and they're really good. I mean, it's, you know, the buildings are made in a way that they're all arches. the roofs, the ceilings, it's all arches. I love it. Anyway, I also like the tower. The tower is fantastic. I'd quite happily live in the tower.
I don't think I would like to live in a tower.
I mean, no, I mean,
because
it'd keep you fit.
Because you'd have your kitchen and your living room on different floors, so you'd be kicking away, and by the time you got up to the living room to eat it, it would be cold.
No, you eat in your dining area. See, clearly, this is where you're going wrong.
But, by the time you get to your dining area from your kitchen, because you wouldn't have the room for the kitchen and a dining area, which you'd need if you were living in a tower and a castle.
Well, no, but what you could do is you could have a kitchen.
Luxuries.
You'd have a kitchen diner. That's what you'd have.
You haven't got room for that in the tower.
Well, you have. Yeah, you have. You can have really tiny kitchen diners. Trust me. I mean, you can spend a certain amount of time in a caravan. So if you can do that,
yes, that's very true.
And some of them are quite small.
All back.
Yes,
I take it all back.
I would. And they got guard robes on every floor, which I'm quite impressed with.
They don't want to get caught short.
No, and an oubliette, which does seem a bit odd considering this was made by the church. I'm pretty sure that's an oubliette. If it's something else, we would love to know what it is. Yes. All that being said, I think it's time for us to remind you that perhaps what you need to do now is click that subscribe button so that you won't miss out on any of our further upcoming CADW Challenge films.
And if you want to check out what we've been doing, check out our lovely map and the terrible timer that is counting down to the end of the CADW Challenge. You can visit somethingvloggy.uk. And with that, we shall see you next time.
TTFN.